From Kenobi's reconnection with the Force to that emotional lightsaber battle against Darth Vader, Obi-Wan Kenobi was full of stuff that fans had been asking for. But that doesn't mean it needs a season 2.
Broken. That transport, I need to get her back to Alderaan.
Once we get all these people out of here, I'll do whatever you want. They've been waiting for months. We used an old trade route to get them out, but the window's closing. We held it to help you get the kid. We only have a few hours.
After all, Kenobi's story is already finished. I mean, if you say that we don't have enough Obi-Wan Kenobi content in Star Wars, you're just wrong, because having 3 movies, a couple of animated series, and a 6-episode series is definitely more than enough to tell a character's story. Now, if you say you just want to see Ewan McGregor and Hayden Christensen interact more on screen, then hey, that's totally valid. The issue, however, is that we just don't have any more Obi-Wan Kenobi stories to tell. Seriously, just trace everything we've seen all the way back to The Phantom Menace. We've seen the dude as a Padawan, a Jedi Master, a General, and a Hermit. Plus, he's lost the love of his life as well. Like, he's been through the motions already. Not to mention, it would be a bit disingenuous for his character, cause you definitely don't want to milk something if it doesn't make sense.
They want all of us.
Vader wants me.
If you surrender, she died for nothing. He'll keep coming.
That's why I have to stop him.
You going to fight him?
He expects me to surrender. He knows I'll do everything I can to protect these people.
Let's roll back for a bit though, because what is it about Kenobi's story that doesn't warrant a season 2? Well, for starters, the Leia saga is done and dusted. And honestly, well, it had its flaws, like the drawn-out chase scenes or the weird decision-making from some of the characters. It was still a pleasant surprise that the showrunners managed to integrate Leia into a Kenobi story. I mean, literally everyone thought the series was going to involve Luke being in danger one way or another. But that's the thing. Now that we've already been through the motions with Leia, there's nothing left to add there anymore. Not to mention, it would also probably get even closer to breaking the canon.
Okay, I know how this looks.
Yes, it looks like you just took money from that family.
I got them safe, just a little poorer. You're not gonna tell anyone, are you?
That depends on what you tell me.
Seriously, just think about it. Their whole adventure culminates at that moment in A New Hope when she says, "Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi, you're my only hope," almost as if she's known him from before. It was a nice little addition to the OG trilogy, but she also names her son Ben after him. This should be it though. We don't need to see more scenes with Leia getting kidnapped or getting herself in trouble again. That would just get way too repetitive and boring. Besides, I'm sure Obi-Wan probably wouldn't want to go on that sort of adventure anyway. With that said, there is perhaps an even greater reason why Kenobi's Season 2 wouldn't work.
I have been watching you, third sister. I know what it is you seek. Prove yourself, and the position of Grand Inquisitor.
And it's the appearance of Vader. I mean, let's be honest for a sec. The only reason we wanted to see Kenobi was to see him interact with his former Padawan, and we got that scene not once, but twice in the series. Plus, the second time in particular was just so emotionally heavy that there's no way you could ever recreate that. Also, it wouldn't make any sense either, would it? Like they've already had their confrontation, which by the way, already makes their interaction in A New Hope feel a bit off. So adding anything on top of that would just totally defeat the purpose. That being said, if it's not Vader, then who's even going to be the bad guy? Like, you see the issue here, right? Because Season 2 will struggle to up the ante. Seriously, the first season had this problem already, and it's only going to get exacerbated if they decide to make a second one. Cause, you see, Kenobi doesn't really have an arch nemesis like that anymore. Well, apart from Vader anyway. And sure, you could say that Darth Maul is maybe alive in this timeline and they could bring him back, but at what point do fans get tired of this constant barrage of nostalgia bait? Not to mention, we've already seen this interaction in Rebels as well, so to translate it into live-action form wouldn't really make any sense. You get what I'm saying, right? It all just feels like far too much of a stretch for it to be a compelling story. Besides, even though Qui-Gon's cameo at the end felt like the the writers were leaving the door open for a season 2, I'm not too sure if Liam Neeson would even be up for doing a second season. Sure, it could be a Monster of the Week show like Mandalorian, but again, why would you ever do that with Kenobi? Oh, and let's not forget that amidst all this drama, Kenobi still has to protect Luke on Tatooine. I mean, that's the dude's life goal now, to make sure Luke is safe until he can grow up and become a Jedi himself. And to do this, he's ready to spend the rest of his life as a hermit in a cave. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't think Kenobi seems to be the type of guy to bail on a responsibility like that. Sure, he did that when he went after Leia, but you've got to remember, she's also Anakin's daughter, making her literally the only person he'd do that for. So, in a way, that chapter's closed too. Oh, and of course, we don't want to see him fighting a new threat every week on Tatooine, do we? Yeah. Still, let's assume that they do greenlight a second season and have a story and everything. Why can it not be good then? Well, because season 1 wasn't that special either, and that's arguably the biggest reason why you wouldn't want a season 2. Like, sure, we got some really cool moments that we'd been clamoring for. Everything in between, however, was just not good enough. The story felt like it was dragging on for no reason, which shows they didn't have much of a story to tell anyway. The sequences felt redundant, and the pacing was all over the place. I mean, if you weren't a fan of the prequels or liked Obi-Wan as a character, then there was literally nothing worth watching here. And now that they've exhausted the only plausible story that there is to tell, season 2 will perhaps be even worse in this regard. Seriously, at that point, you're just tarnishing the legacy of the character, which of course no one wants. Now, understandably, both Ewan McGregor and Hayden Christensen have said that they'd like to return and play these characters again. But at the same time, what else do you expect them to say? That we hate these characters and don't want to play them? Like, let's just be real for a sec. Though there is one way the showrunners could potentially make things work, and that is by making a spin-off show. Now, hear me out for a sec. What if we took one of the new characters from season 1 and told their story? I mean, sure, it may not be great, but at least they'd have enough material and room to make it good, right? Oh, and just in case you're wondering, of course I'm talking about Reva, who by the end of season 1 gives up her role as an Inquisitor. So if a show is based on her, you could see her journey from a young Padawan all the way to her becoming an Inquisitor, or she could help build up the rebellion instead. Seriously, the possibilities are endless here. Whether fans would consider watching a side character, however, is another question. But hey, we've already seen with Andor, if it has a compelling narrative, a good setting, and great characters, people are going to watch it regardless of whether the protagonist is an already established part of Star Wars lore or not. So yeah, Kenobi Season 2 doesn't make any sense. Some other ideas that stem from it, well, now you're talking. And that, folks, is why Obi-Wan Kenobi doesn't need a Season 2.